So a little bit of a disclaimer here, this is not like a full review on this game, mostly because I can only really muster a few hours before wanting to go play an actual good game like Garfield Kart, for example. The game I'm talking about is, of course, Redfall. This is hands down the worst game I've ever played in my life. I know I say that with a lot of games I've played, like Hello Neighbor, State of Survival, hell, even Garten Ban is up there. But Redfall is something that is just borderline unplayable, and when you do play it, it's just incredibly dull, monotonous, and bland. Redfall is an open-world vampire shooter published by Bethesda, but it was developed by Arcane Studios. The same Arcane Studios that has created Prey, Deathloop, and even the cult classic of the Dishonored series. Although I've never played Dishonored myself, fans were ecstatic by the news of this new creation, as Dishonored 1 and 2 are still seen to this day as one of the greatest stealth games to have ever released. To say hopes were high for this game was a complete understatement. That is, until we finally got to see the gameplay review for Redfall. In a video by IGN, we saw some very concerning details like overall looks being less than stellar, gameplay that felt very one-note and just run-and-gun-esque, and most importantly, the AI looked utterly abysmal with their combat and pathfinding. There was even an announcement released before launch stating that the Xbox version will only cap off at 30 frames per second upon launch. If that doesn't spell out concerning, then I don't know what does. I mean, I might just be illiterate, who knows. But anyways, the game was actually so concerningly messy at the time that only reviews you were allowed to give was from a 90-minute-ish playthrough of the game that you had to sit down and play with everybody else in the same room. Other than that, there was a review embargo in effect before launch, forcing reviewers who got the game early to not talk or just give a warning about the horrid game about to release. Flash forward to May 2nd of 2023, that's when Redfall released, and now we have this piece of stinking garbage. The game upon launch costs $70 to play if you do not have Game Pass, otherwise if you do, it is free. And for a lot of people, Redfall would be so unpolished, so broken, so just awful, that even just playing the game was near impossible, including me. Little bit of a story time here, I'm just gonna go through what all I've experienced with playing this game, but upon opening the game, I decided I wanted to play a little bit of single player to get an initial feel of the game. I saw the opening cutscene, walked down from the ship to get a gun, but then I left the game to get a friend who actually wanted to play with me. I played probably less than 5 minutes of the game in total in single player and did absolutely nothing to progress at all. But since I've already played a little bit of the game and my friend hadn't yet, the game couldn't figure out what to do next and just made us crash 3 separate times. It's already off to a wonderful start to play a AAA game that already had problems that was fixed decades ago, but after around 25 minutes or so, we finally got it working and we were finally ballin'. And then we got soft-locked. This one is funny, as once traversing through the harbor, killing every single enemy that was dumber than a goddamn rock, which I will talk about in a few, we made our way to the firehouse, the end of the prologue, the soon-to-be safe house that was filled to the absolute brim with vampires and cultists alike. Until it wasn't. When we finally reached the safe house, the place was already rendered as liberated and free. The front entrance was already open to teleport inside, even though what you're supposed to do is make your way through the back entrance instead. And once we entered, the firehouse already had all of the vendor NPCs next to their dead friends. Alright, bet that's I guess that's a safe house. Guns and ammo were still scattered around the area, although some were hidden by certain objects or were just floating mid-air, but that's still not the worst of it though. As to actually free the firehouse, you need to kill the vampire in the basement and then to free the civilians that are trapped upstairs. But since the firehouse was rendered as safe already, we couldn't pull out our guns, and the vampire who was in the basement teleported to our faces, froze, and then couldn't be killed, effectively soft-locking our game and causing us to have a hard reset. Funnily enough, this isn't the only time we had a broken safe house, but the second time it happened, thankfully it did not end up in a soft lock state. Instead, a vampire decided to appear right in front of us in our newly liberated safe house of a house seller, with my character even saying, "Oh look, a safe house, we can clear it," even though we just did. And then boom, a vampire appears right in front of us in front of the UV light taking no damage. And you know me guys, I'm not one to have a vampire degree, and I'm not even the superhero Blade, don't get me wrong, but I think UV lights are supposed to hurt the vampire, but what do I know though. Once getting the game to actually run like how it was supposed to run, aka normally, which by the way that took 45 minutes to do so, the gameplay within Redfall made me quit early on. The overall concern for the AI, or lack thereof, was spot on if I'm being honest. This AI really sucked, and more so belonged on a game like Skyrim instead of Redfall. A lot of the times we just walked up to an enemy, stood right next to them, and even sometimes looked them dead in their eyes, and we weren't spotted. There were other moments where I would take out an enemy long range with a silent sniper, and no matter how many people were there, I would never be spotted. But when we were spotted, which most of the time was just because we wanted to, we could just walk to the left or walk to the right, and then boom, we evaded any and every single attack from any and every single type of enemy. What amazing combat this is. Take some notes, United States military. This is what our soldiers should be doing. It was weird though, as the combat was still incredibly imbalanced for the few times that we were hit. With the vampires especially, it felt like roulette to see if we were gonna die from a single swipe or not get affected in the slightest. Did I mention to you all that we all played this in Nightmare difficulty, also known as the hardest difficulty when starting out Redfall? I'm telling you, the only, and I mean the only good thing about this game, let alone the combat, was the guns and how unique they are. And look, add that with the methods to kill these imbalanced vampires, and you know, you got a really good feature. But it's a shame though, as every other feature within the game masks this only good feature. With that though, how are the missions that we played? Well, we played 2 missions, and then we could immediately tell that they were unfinished and padded out. For starters, each mission was selected and started through a main hub in the fire station. I don't think I've ever seen a AAA game require mission selections in a single player to co-op game. I thought we lived in a time where smooth transitions onto the next mission were a thing for big titled games, and the process of selecting story missions only stayed in the mobile game genre, but I guess not. And the missions themselves really sucked. All of the times we just had to go from point A to point B, that is just across the map. And since there's no vehicles or no good fast travel, and really there's just one traversal hero, which is Layla, this game is bound to have some very boring walking moments, and I mean very boring walking moments. This map felt so lifeless when I was going from point A to point B. The reason for going to these areas were because of a special point of interest, like a helicopter crashing or a fake broadcast being put out. But once going there, all you have to do is either look at the point of interest, press one button, or kill every single enemy there, and boom, mission complete. Hats off to you, you did it. How the fuck can this type of game seriously be made? Is this fun for y'all? Having to walk across the map to get to an arena, but the area you're at is full of the most moronic people that you could fucking flick like a little ant. Like seriously, what good gameplay is in this obviously rushed game? On top of that, this game looks incredibly horrendous. It looks like if it was made in 2016, which is concerning because this game is 103 gigabytes to fucking download. Holy shit. I had this game at the best quality settings because my computer could surprisingly run it, with of course motion blur being turned off, because if you like motion blur in a game, you're more psychotic than a mental patient on methamphetamine. Even at the highest settings though, this game could not render most textures even when I was directly looking at them. Facial animations from characters looked incredibly terrifying and was the scariest part of the game hands down. And like, take a look at this world border, this giant wave about to crash down. How cool does this look? I mean, on paper, how cool does this look? Because on here, it looks atrocious. The wave looks incredibly static with a top overlay of the water moving to make it look like it's actually moving, but of course it's not. The placement of the waves can easily be exploited as well, and you could see different parts where the wave textures actually starts and ends. Just like most features, the overall look of the game is so completely rushed, but when you add that with the ear-bleeding music that sounds like if that one Floss kid was the composer of this soundtrack, you got a very, very ugly game. And it's a shame too, because I'm not the only person who's seen how lifeless and ugly this entire world looks. There's some people who've seen the chimneys in the game that looks just I guess attached on, maybe. Some cutscenes wouldn't render for some people. Oh wait, I haven't even talked about the cutscenes. That is like the most pathetic part of the game. All the cutscenes, or if not most of the cutscenes in the game, are static, meaning that they're just pictures that transition into the next picture. I don't know why Arcane or Bethesda greenlit this feature. No fucking person in the world likes a static cutscene. And the only cutscene that had dynamic aspect to it, which I've seen, was completely bugged, and the entire environment it just did not load in. What a fucking great game you have, Arcane. So these are just my initial thoughts on Redfall. This is not a full-on review, this is just everything I've experienced within the few hours I played on this game, which is extremely concerning if you ask me. And if I'm being honest, I don't see myself playing this after uploading this video. I don't see myself releasing a full-on review, I just can't. I know I have not explored everything within Redfall, but due to the state that is in, I just do not care to explore it. This game is $70 to play. $70 for a game that most people had troubles playing, or simply just did not enjoy in the slightest. This should not be accepted in today's time. If the majority of the player base is not having a single good time playing this, and if the majority player base is dealing with the unpolished problems of Redfall, then Redfall should have not been released. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think this game should have seen its light in 2023. It should have been held back into another year. This game is so far from being complete, and it's not even just like how broken this is. I feel like if this game became polished and all the bugs just went away, this gameplay would still feel incredibly dull, bland, and boring. I've also seen people defend Arcane or Bethesda. Actually, I haven't seen a single person defend Bethesda. Fuck that company. But I've also seen people defend Xbox in general. Some say that the hatred is from a hive mind because one person enjoyed their time playing the game. Other people say that they shouldn't be harsh with Arcane since they spent time and effort making this game for God knows how long, but those are just such poor excuses. I don't give a shit if a company spent however long on a game. If the game that they release is not good or even playable at that, then why the fuck are they releasing it, even at a price that is higher than base price of a AAA title? What the fuck is this? Are we now just defending companies that are releasing shit on a platter? These companies are literally getting away with releasing unfinished games at full price. There's Jedi Survivor that released at such horrible state. There was the Callisto Protocol that also released at such a horrible state. Actually, I feel like there's more of a chance that if a AAA game releases today, it's more likely to not be polished or be unfinished or anything like that than be a normal playable game. And it sucks too, because if we continue to act this way, if we continue to defend these companies for giving us shit, then nothing will be solved. Nothing will change. We'll just get a worse and worse AAA title until the day we die, I guess. It just sucks being the consumer, the ones who are looking at these companies with hope and full of like loyalty, and then in turn we just get these games that are completely rushed, that are completely just cash grabs, and are completely just soulless. But what do you guys think about this game? Do you guys think that Redfall is a poor excuse of a game and should have been left in the oven for a few months? Do you guys think that Redfall is an actual good game, and if so, should you be checked into a mental facility? Leave it down in the comments below. But other than that, thank you all for watching this video. If you guys do like this video, maybe hit that like button and subscribe. I want to thank you all for 150 subscribers already. God damn. The growth on this channel is completely insane, and I hope it doesn't stop anytime soon. But other than that, I will see you all in a later video. Bye for now.